Welcome, Anthony. I wanted to chat with you from an accounting perspective about everything, all the craziness that's going on, because so much of it really does have to do with accounting. So, first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Anthony?
Yeah, no problem. I'm a chartered accountant, CPA, CA. I'm a partner at a firm called Baker Tilly, WN LLP. We're a national firm with offices across Canada. I specialize in small business and I also do personal taxes as well. And I've been practicing for over 14 years. That's a little bit about myself.
Wow, that's awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit, for example, about the tax deadlines right now, because those have shifted? Can you kind of walk us through the differences between self-employed, business owner, salaried employee in terms of when you're filing taxes and then paying for the taxes?
Absolutely. So most people would fall under the personal tax deadline, which is usually April 30th. And what they've done is they've extended that one to June 1st. So they've extended that out a month. And what they've done additionally is usually the return was due April 30th as well as the payment. They've extended the payment out to September 1st. So
Okay.
not only do you have more time to file, you also will have more time to pay the balance as well.
Got it.
Um, Self-employed people usually had a June 15th deadline to file their taxes, but the caveat with that was they had to have the balance paid by April 30th. That deadline's been moved also to September 1st for the payment, but the deadline to get the tax return filed is still June 15th.
Okay, got it. That's good to know. Okay. I haven't filed yet, but I almost feel like I don't want to because now it's kind of like, do I really need more bad news in my life? Like, quite frankly, that's really the way I think about it. So I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh,
and I mean, no one likes taxes from the start, but what we're encouraging everyone is there may be more programs rolled out, and availability may have to do with you filing your taxes. So, especially if you're in a refund position, the best thing is to get it in as quickly as possible. Plus, too, most accounting firms are set up to do their bulk of their work in April. So, you want it to get done fast too. Get it in as quickly as possible.
but I guess now for accountants, they have a little bit more time, right? Because normally you would be going crazy about now, and I'm sure you're still busy, but now people have a lot more time. Does that not make it a lot easier for accountants right now? Because now everything is pushed out a little bit longer for you guys as well?
It does. It takes a little bit of the pressure off, especially to like what I'm experiencing personally is, everyone from small businesses to people who have been laid off or subcontractors been let go. Everyone's trying to navigate their way through all of these programs. And, the bad part about it is, the good part about it is they responded quickly and they rolled stuff out to help people out to calm everyone down. The weird part about all of this is, they're almost changing daily. So what we've kind of gained in we have more time to file everyone's taxes, we've kind of lost is we're touching base with everyone right now, trying to navigate everybody through all the various programs and all the deadlines and whatnot.
Right, that makes sense. So can you tell us, how people apply for assistance right now and what the various programs are out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a salaried employee and you've been laid off or you have a reduced workload, your first option is obviously employment insurance, which is EI. So either if you're on a reduced work plan or if you had to stay home for various reasons and you're salaried, you would go apply for EI through I believe Service Canada. Um, Secondly, if you're self-employed, if you're a shareholder of a small business, if you had to shut down because of COVID-19, you either got to take care of your kids, business has dried up, you're an independent contractor, and whoever you work for, they canceled your contract. There's something called the CERB, CERB, and that is $500 a week if you're eligible. And that you have to apply through My Account, which is on the CRA website.
Got it. And what does that CERB stand for?
The CERB is, I think it's Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit,
Okay,
if I
got
believe.
it.
And yeah, sorry.
And so how do people apply for that?
That it's very easy. So you first of all, what you need to do is make sure you have a My account with the CRA, and you can go to the CRA website and register for that. Once you do that registration, there you log in, and there is a portal that says Apply to CERB directly in your individual My account. Once you click that, I believe it's 2 or 3 questions. It's actually pretty easy to apply for.
Yeah.
So you answer the questions, and some people have already gotten the money.
Yeah, I heard that. People applied Monday, and I think today people said they already had $2,000 in their bank account.
Yeah, they've done it. They've done it pretty fast, which is good. And initially, when they opened it up, just to make sure they didn't crash the server, they were telling people to apply on different days depending on what month your birthday's in. I
Mhm.
believe as of today, that's no longer the case. Everyone can apply now.
Wow, jeez. Yeah, it was just, it kind of really blows my mind. It's sort of like overnight we went from a capitalist country to a socialist country,
Very quickly, very quickly.
right? Everybody, here's the money. But even, I mean, $2,000 a month. I mean, if you look at the fact that the average one bedroom rent is, let's say, $2,300 a month, $2,000 a month doesn't cut it, right?
No, and I think what the idea was is just to get money into everyone's pocket right away, just to help
Right.
cover the short term. But there are going to be a lot of people, in various situations, be residential or commercial, are going to run out of money soon. Will not be able to pay their rent. I'm not too sure. It sounds like they haven't extended everything yet, but
Mhm.
the language is some of these programs were meant to be extended, and they're going to start offering more. They haven't addressed the rent situation yet,
Yeah.
on both sides, but I think that's the next big step after the dust settles on all of this.
And so then what about EI? So let's say someone's unemployed, they're filing for EI. Can they get their EI, like their employment insurance money, as well as this $2,000 payment each month as well too?
No, so the CERB, the $2,000 payment is for people that fall outside of EI, so people that don't qualify. So if you're self-employed, you can't pay into employment insurance. You can, but only in very limited circumstances, like maternity leave.
Right.
But generally, because you can't lay yourself off, you can't file for unemployment insurance. So
Mm.
because of this, what they've done the service to kind of catch the people who are self-employed and have slipped through the cracks that essentially need the help but can't get it through the normal channels.
Wow. And that CERB is taxable, I believe, correct?
I believe it is, yes. So you do get it, but you do have to include it as taxable income as well.
So, and I think right now they're saying that is a maximum of 4 months, that CERB payment.
Yes, so you have to assess on a period by period basis.
Yep.
So and then it's $500 weekly payments.
Ah, got it.
So
So,
the people who got the $2,000 you're just mentioning, I
yep.
believe it's been backdated from March 15th. That's why they would have got the full payment now.
Oh, got it. But still, so $2,000 a month times 4 months, that's $8,000 for 4 months.
Yep.
And you have to pay taxes on top of that.
Yeah, it would be included as a taxable benefit. But so is employment insurance. So employment insurance,
Okay.
even though you get it, you still have to pay tax on it.
Interesting. So then talk to me about the other programs that they came up with. So, for example, the one with the 75% helping small businesses with wages.
So there's two programs for people who employ people. So if you're a charity, if you are just a sole proprietor that has a payroll account, if you're a small corporation that employs somebody, if you have payroll between 50,000 and $1 million, there's something called the CEWS, which is the Canadian Emergency Worker Subsidy, where you can apply and they'll pay 75% of your employee's wages, up to an amount of, I believe it's 58,000. So for 75% of 58,000, it amounts to, I believe, $768 if I'm wrong, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. Um,
But that's
so
only if you have a payroll minimum of $50,000, correct?
exactly, yeah, the maximum to 1 million. The other caveat of it, which actually just changed this morning, was you need to be able to prove that you've had a dip in your revenues. They're saying it was 30%. Now they're saying you need to prove that it's 15%. And that's year over year. But
Wow.
but they've also changed it now. They're talking about changing it where you can go from January and February and do that that change as well, because what's happening is people are saying, well, I haven't felt the impact yet because stuff's only dried up for 2 weeks,
Right.
but they're not going to see the cash flow for a long time, so they're trying to address those concerns with it right now.
Got it. Wow. So you talk about the 75%. So what about
Yep.
that loan? The loan that they want to give you $40,000 for,
Yeah, so the loan for $40,000 it's similar to it, where you need to have a minimum of $50,000 in payroll for the
right?
year. And what they'll do is essentially they'll give you, through your financial institution, they will give you up to $40,000. And
Okay.
if it's an interest-free loan up to, I believe, January 2022. Sorry,
Okay.
January 2022. And if you repay that loan by January 2022, I believe 25% of it, they're saying, is going to be forgivable. So
Okay.
let's say by chance you you qualify and you get the full 40,000, they'll forgive $10,000 of that loan.
Okay. Got it. Interesting. Wow. So much to know. Okay. So then now let's look at, um, do you think people should be shoring up their cash reserves right now through mortgage deferrals and lines of credit?
Yeah, I think everyone needs to, the first thing I told my clients when I sent out an email was, check, defer anything that you can if you're in a cash crunch. So
Right.
obviously the first thing is a mortgage. There is mortgage relief out there. It is on an individual basis, so you need to reach out to your bank directly.
Right.
Also, too, on the commercial side, commercial loans like BDC, they're offering programs where you can also defer your loans, where you basically get into an interest only or a deferral for 6 months on the actual payments. So I would say that'd be the best place to start.
Okay.
If you're an individual and you don't have a business, what I would suggest is take a look at your monthly expenses and decide what's a nice to have and what's essential right now, especially if cash is tight.
Right.
And like I just got a letter today from the township that I'm part of, and they're saying we can defer our property taxes to July. So check on that as well. I'm sure most towns and cities have similar programs. So figure out what, first of all, is figure out what your bills are, and the
Yeah.
second thing is figure out what you can defer and what you have to pay.
Okay.
That is important, and that's the easiest way, because those are usually the biggest things that are a cash crunch.
Right. But you would recommend that people do shore up their cash and do the mortgage deferrals, lines of credit, all that kind of stuff right now?
If you need it, absolutely. I mean, if you're in a fortunate situation where cash isn't too tight, there may be interest consequences of deferring those payments.
Right. Of
So if you
course.
still have the money and you can pay it, then pay it. But if you're really in that situation where you need it, then defer it. Also too, if you have a landlord, or if you're running a business and you have suppliers, the best thing is to do is communicate directly. Everyone's kind of in the same position right now.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what's going on, so most people are being pretty kind about it. But what we usually find is if you don't communicate, then people just make presumptions. So the best thing to
Yes.
do is to keep the lines of communication open, and most people are reasonable.
Right.
Maybe hear about 10% of the people that are just getting a flat no, but most of the stories are good stories, and people are out there and trying to help people.
Right, that makes sense. We've got a question in our chat, and it kind of
Yeah.
goes back to what we talked about before. So it said, what about self-employed people on commission whose commissions trickle in over many months? Does that preclude that person from applying for that CERB, that $2,000? Like, so for example, let's say someone's getting commission in March, they don't get any commission in April, but they've got commission coming in May. What is
Yeah.
that?
So they haven't addressed those particulars yet. Like generally when we get a tax document, it's like 50 pages long and it's been reviewed 27 times. Right now, these are paragraphs coming out on a one-page site on the government. So what I think it's amounting to do is, if you have the cash, this is what we're advising our clients. If you're still getting the cash flow in, then you probably shouldn't apply while the cash is coming in, especially as a self-employed person. If it's a commission from a previous one, so let's say you close the deal, or it's commissions owed from something that happened in November, and you're just receiving the money now, and you got nothing going on, or you can't practice because you've been shut down because of COVID-19, then I
Yep.
would apply for the CERB.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different people in that kind of situation as well too. So
Yeah, and the guidance isn't clear, but what I think we're telling everyone is, if you need the money, apply, because I think that's the spirit of it, is,
Hmm.
to help people. If you're in the fortunate situation where business is still going, even if it's still going a little bit, unfortunately, it sounds like you don't qualify for the CERB.
Got it. Wow. So, I mean, let's go back to you're just talking about how normally there's a 50-page document and now you're just getting paragraphs. So, basically, are all the accountants just watching the news the same time we are? And you find out what the changes are, and then all of a sudden you've got to be like, oh my God, what's happening?
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's a few sources. So we're going to the government website when they're updating stuff, and we're trying to digest it.
Yeah.
We are basically in a news conference if they say something. We're keeping track of it and trying to incorporate it in the stuff that we have. And the other thing is, there's a Q&A section in the CRA website, and some of those have addressed particular instances where they've given some guidance. And sometimes they weren't there a day before, and then they're there now, and we're kind of like, what the heck's going on? But I can make available after our national firm in Devel, I think you've seen it, has put together a PDF that's it's a living document, and it
Okay.
summarizes all the programs, who's eligible to apply,
Yeah,
and
that'd be great.
tries to give some guidance. So if anyone has any questions, we can definitely forward them the link, and they can check that out. That's a free
Yeah.
resource
No,
that
I
we're
love that.
offering.
If you can send that out to me, that'd be great. And then I can post on my social media and send it out to people. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
So then, what other suggestions would you have for people who are trying to budget right now?
Like we said before, find out what's important, what's nice to have, and kind of what's urgent, and prioritize, and pay first. If your customers if you own a business and your customers aren't paying you, then you probably shouldn't be paying your suppliers, because you're in the same boat. So
Mm,
you should be working towards that. The second thing is, as bad of a situation it is, maybe this is a good time for everyone to do a financial cleanup of, take assessment of your personal financial situation. um, you know and I'm not here to criticize anybody, but a lot of people don't save enough. We're save for a rainy day, and we were in an unprecedented bump since 2008. The economy's roared, and no one's really had to think about something like this happening. And
yeah.
now that it has, you might take a look at maybe get a financial advisor. Start budgeting more. It's a good opportunity. It's never too late to start that
Right.
kind of stuff. But do what you have to do to survive right now. That's the important thing to everyone. If you have a business, pay the people. If you need to pay something because it keeps your business going, keep it going. The other thing is, look at yourself from a business perspective. Everyone's working from home right now. This is
Mm-hmm.
technology has never been more at a forefront than
Mm-hmm.
it is now. Maybe take a look at your business and say, am I behind on technology or not? Because probably
Mm,
caught a lot of people with their pants down, not being
right.
able to operate right now. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. What advice would you have for example, let's say small business owners out there that, have leases to pay, have staff or suppliers to pay? I mean, I've already heard of a couple of restaurants who've decided to close down, for example. So, I just heard the Marche and BCE place. Oops, I think it's called Brookfield Place now,
Yep.
has closed down, right? And I know that times are absolutely tough for the restaurant industry. So in my mind, I think, wow, if a place like Marche is already shut down, what hope does everybody else have?
It's tough because brick and mortar, which means you have a physical location. Your biggest expense is your rent, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what drives people through the door. So I'd say people in the hospitality sector. I feel for you right now. It's really tough out there. But again, communication is key. So it's first thing is go renegotiate your lease. Like I know Marche and a few of the other ones, a lot of their landlords, they have some of the bigger ones, they've already cut them a break in terms of a rent deferral or a reduction in rent. So if they can get that, you should be able to get that as well. So even what I'm telling people as well, a lot of people give last month you get creative. A lot of people
Right,
give last month's deposits on their rent. Maybe go to your landlord and ask him if he can cash that in for the month, and that at least you're not out of pocket, you don't have to defer, and
right.
everyone's happy, right? So situations like that. And also too, like restaurants, you can still deliver, you can still do takeout, get crafty and look for those alternatives, right?
Yeah, but it's funny. I just recently heard that Uber Eats charges those restaurants 30% to do those deliveries. And I'm like, if the restaurant has to pay Uber Eats 30% on top of their cost to produce the food, That's a pretty small margin for them to even be able to pay their rent from.
It is, but most of the stuff you'll notice on Uber Eats is usually the restaurants will increase their price to
Mm,
reflect that increase.
okay.
And then the other thing too is I think a lot of those services, recognizing that the industry's in a bad spot right now, they've reduced those fees as well just to keep everybody moving. Because I
Okay,
mean,
that's
too,
good.
if all the restaurants go down, they're not going to have much of a market to come back to after as well, right?
You know what? That's a very good point, but it's funny. I think like that when it comes to commercial landlords too, in that if they don't give some of those restaurants a break on their rent, and when I say a break, I don't mean a deferral, I mean literally a break on that rent,
Yep.
that business, whether it's a retailer or a restaurant, will just go out of business. And that commercial landlord is not going to get another tenant for at least a year because we know our economy is going to be going through, like a recession. So, I feel like with some of those commercial landlords, if they don't let those people out of the rent, they can just say goodbye to a whole year's rent too.
Well, exactly, and that's what I've actually had some conversations with some of my landlord clients. It's like, do you draw a hard line on 2 months worth of rent and have no one to come back? If we do go into a recession, there's going to be no one lining up for those properties after as well. Um,
Exactly.
so, unfortunately, I do feel though, everyone's making landlords out to be bad guys, but you don't know every landlord's financial situation. You
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if they've got in an adjustment for the bank. You don't know if it's everyone's in a tough spot, and there's not one answer that fits the mold for it to help everybody. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that because I am a landlord, not a commercial landlord, but a residential landlord. And so, at the beginning, the banks weren't even offering mortgage deferrals for
no,
residential landlords. It was only after a week or so they started to ease up. And even still, I have a number of properties, a couple I was able to get a deferral on, but one of them I wasn't. So, then you have tenants coming at you, sort of assuming that you got the mortgage deferral, and why isn't that, sent back to them? And then you have to sort of turn around and educate them to say, no, actually, wait a second. I actually did not get a mortgage deferral on that property. So let me know how much rent you can pay.
exactly, yeah. And I think what happened is the banks drew a hard line the first little bit, playing a little bit of game of chicken with the government.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both kind of eased up, and I think in the next few weeks you'll start seeing the banks starting to ease up and more offerings for more people out there. But it's a tough spot right now. You're kind of in a no win situation. Some landlords, so.
Yeah,
Um, that's why
absolutely.
that's why it's good to try and both sides just try and work with each other the best you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes sense. But yeah, it's a bit of a people trying to figure out what next they can do to earn a living
Exactly. Yeah.
in these strange times that basically nobody has ever planned for.
No, no.
Because you can sort of go through your financial planning and say, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll have this side hustle. Or if this doesn't work out, I'll have this side hustle. And then the pandemic happens and pretty much everything is obliterated. You know,
Everything's yep.
people did make those kinds of plans that it just didn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's I feel it's I mean it's a very tough, unprecedented situation. There's nothing you could have done to plan for this other than maybe
Mhm.
have a little bit of rainy day funds. But also too, there when these type of situations, there's opportunities. Not to sound insensitive, but the markets are at an all-time low. If you've been waiting to jump in or you got some excess cash that you think is a smart opportunity, now is probably the time to jump in.
Yep.
Also, too, the real estate market, you probably know more about this than I do, was red hot again right before all of this started. So, I
Yes.
mean, if you're in a position where you are looking to buy and you don't have to sell, I mean, you probably won't get a better opportunity now than you ever have. So,
Yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, prices have come down a little bit with real estate. I think the challenge is because we are all told to stay at home, unless you can purchase that real estate without actually physically going to see it, I think that's the opportunity. If you're an
yeah,
investor and you are okay purchasing a property without physically seeing it, then I think, yes, it's a win for you. But I think if you're the kind of person, and I think when people are purchasing a personal property for themselves, they're more apt to say, no, 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 I need to see it. And so I think when people actually physically need to see it, it becomes a little bit more of a challenge. But there are sales happening. I was in my sales meeting this morning, and there were colleagues of mine that saw, 3 offers on a particular house. So that does happen. And of course, if this wasn't happening, there would probably be, 13 offers on that house, not three.
yeah.
But yes, you're right. If you do have cash right now that it could be a good time for you to buy. But you know, who's to say in the next few months it also won't be? It will also be a good time to buy as well too.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean also too, as well. I mean, some markets get impacted, a lot quicker and are a lot
Hmm.
more volatile than other markets. So yeah, it's definitely the situation you're in and where you're at. So, but I agree with you on that. The other thing is they're saying if we do get through this quickly, they're saying the economy may roar back. We were in pretty good position before all this started. It may roar back pretty quickly. So, that's the message to everyone is just survive this, beg, borrow, and steal. Do whatever you have to do to keep afloat because, if it does come back and it comes back quickly, you just want to make sure you're in a position to take advantage of it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I mean, I think I disagree with that. Well, we're roaring back quickly. I do feel we are going to go into a recession only because with so many people laid off and out of work, I don't see how it's possible. I mean, I think the jobless rate came out today, and I think they said it was 10% unemployment rate.
Mhm.
But you know, if I look around all the time, so many layoffs occurring that I kind of feel like that's going to affect us. You know, people are going through their savings or going through credit. And as much as I, you know, really want to support the restaurant industry, for example, I think that when we come out of this, yeah, what's one of the first things I want to do? I want to go into a restaurant with my friends.
Absolutely.
The question is which restaurants are going to be left? You know?
Yeah, it is. You're right, and that's probably one of the industries hit the hardest by all of this. Um, what I think they're hoping is by giving these wage supplements to employers that they're going to start hiring back some of these people that they've laid off. Some companies laid people off the first week that all of this happened, and don't want to criticize it because everyone's situation is different, but you know, some people jumped the gun.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think the government's really been trying to, they've done it. One thing they've done a good job of is they've tried to address that and they're trying to get people working again. They just have to fine tune these programs to make sure that everyone qualifies for them and then they're not too difficult to get in,
Yeah.
which is the case right now. And, the message to everyone is, if you're confused about whether you qualify for one of these programs or not, you're not alone. In the accounting community, we're confused just as much as you are. But I think as long as you're not trying to take advantage of the situation and you're in a legit position of need, then I would apply. The worst that could happen is you got to give the money back at the end, but hopefully you're in a better position by then.
Okay, so that's good advice. Any other advice you'd like to share with us today?
Just like I said before, do what you have to do to survive, beg, borrow, and steal.
Yeah.
Communication is key. So make sure, anyone you owe money to that you can't pay, just communicate with them. Most people have a heart and will help where they can.
Mhm.
And if one person says no, there may be 10 that say yes. So,
Right.
keep grinding and, get your taxes in. There may be more programs available after, depending on your situation. So the quicker you get that done, you make sure you qualify for all of that stuff. And, just take care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. Take care of your family, take care of your friends. It's a crazy time right now. And,
Yeah.
mental health is definitely a concern. So, just stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice, Anthony. It really is. And I think it's something that's challenging for a lot of people right now. So, yeah, but it's definitely what we all need to do, kind of stay healthy physically, but also mentally as well, too, given
Yeah,
everything that's going on.
exactly. Yeah.